Welcome to the Sensory and Power podcast. I'm Bethany, your host. I'm a holistic occupational therapist with over a decade of experience in supporting individuals helping to transform their world through sensory empowerment. This podcast is your guide to the transformative world of sensory storytelling, holistic tools, and empowerment strategies. Welcome to this episode of the Sensory and Power podcast. I am so excited to dive a little bit more into self-compassion. I am so excited to dive into how we can bring in a little bit more self-compassion during challenging times. In this episode of Sensory and Power, the podcast, we're going to dive into some practices of self-compassion that I really like to practice myself and encourage clients to consider when thinking about bringing in a little bit more of kindness and compassion when we reflect on ourselves. I think there's so many moments in our lives where, whether it be a job or expectations, in whatever relationship, there may be moments where we feel as though we are not doing enough and needing to continue to push and trudge through the mud. And I think this power of the pause and providing our self-compassion when we do need to pause and really reflecting on how truly powerful it can be to just pause and have a moment of reflection. And I think when we get to bring in these moments of pausing and reframing, we're bringing in opportunities to reflect on some very practical strategies of using some maybe self-regulation tools or some sensory tools, and just acknowledging that we are maybe having a difficult time. And through this acknowledgement, rather than pushing it and shoving it away, we get to bring it to light and recognize that we get to find a different tool. And through all of these things, we're just able to nurture a kinder and more supportive relationship with ourselves. And I really am excited to just kind of go through some practical strategies of how I bring in opportunities for self-compassion, especially during really hard times, and maybe some strategies that might be supportive for you. So we're going to go ahead and dive into a really, really important topic of how do we cultivate this self-compassion during challenging times. Life can be very overwhelming, especially with whatever difficult situations we might be facing, expectations of our jobs, expectations of society, maybe things in our community where we need to step forth and be able to support. And in those situations and in those moments, it's really easy to be hard on ourselves. And so I think when I pause and I really have an opportunity to reflect and think about, if we're moving forward with treating ourselves with the same amount of kindness and compassion that we offer to others, what a magical place it will be, because we're bringing in, through this self-compassion, this self-love, which just starts to heal any traumas that we have. It really is such a pivotal moment that I've experienced through trauma therapy and somatic release experiencing, and really finding these holistic tools is just the deep acknowledgement and self-love of, I am processing these senses in a way that has changed through my sensory profile changes. And I acknowledge, I accept, and I give so much self-compassion and so much self-love. And those have been really, truly pivotal moments for me in my healing journey of being able to bring in these opportunities of just bringing in kindness as we would to a stranger, turning that into a mirror for us to have kindness towards ourselves. So as we kind of dive into maybe a little bit of research behind understanding self-compassion, there is a very cool doctor who's got some really interesting research that I wanted to share and talk about, this definition of self-compassion. Dr. Kristen Neff is really a pioneer in self-compassion research. She really describes it as an extending of the same kindness and care to ourselves that we would to a good friend. It really involves three main components: self-kindness, which is defined as being gentle and understanding with ourselves rather than harshly critical. The second would be common humanity, so recognizing that suffering and this personal inadequacy feeling are part of a shared human experience. And then the third, which is something I'm deeply passionate about, is mindfulness. So our ability to hold this present moment awareness and hold our thoughts and our feelings in a balanced awareness rather than over identifying or being critically judging of them. And so as we kind of consider these three components of self-compassion, it's not about being self-indulgent when we have that pause and that reflection. It's really about acknowledging the difficulties that we might be going through and then responding with care and support as we would for another human in our life. So especially when things get harder and more challenging in our world, self-compassion becomes even more crucial. And so when we think about cool research, because I love talking about research and how it can, really deeply connect into our day-to-day lives, it really shows us that self-compassionate people are truly more resilient. They bounce back from setbacks more quickly. They're less likely to experience anxiety or depression. And when we face difficulties, our first reaction might be to criticize ourselves or feel isolated in our suffering. However, when we get to practice this beautiful self-compassion, we get to start to shift this response. So this is this cool neuroplasticity coming out, which is so fabulous. And instead of adding, to the suffering with self-criticism, why aren't you holding it together? You got to keep these emotions in check. This maybe shaming or self-criticism of the actual true emotion experience. If we get to pause and then truly be able to support ourselves through this difficulty, it's going to help promote this healing and this emotional well-being, which then helps support this resiliency of being able to process, support, and release some of these moments of intensity during challenging times. Well, how do we do this? These are some of the things that I really love to practice on my own, and I might coach my clients through, of just thinking about opportunities to bring in a self-compassion practice with considering, especially as things have become more difficult. These are opportunities for us to bring in these practice moments. And so the first is self-compassion break. So as you are maybe going through a difficult moment, you could pause and say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. May I be kind to myself. May I pause for a moment. And this simple practice is really reminding you to, again, take that pause, but also treat yourself with the same compassion as you would offer to a friend going through a hard time. So this self-compassion break really allows us to kind of move out of our own way for a moment and really settle into an acknowledgement of, yes, it is really hard right now. May I be kind to myself during these moments? May I allow this break to release? May I, whatever it may be, I love starting those statements with, may I be at ease? And that kind of pulls from a loving kindness meditation. And I'll, dive in more to different meditation techniques and practices in future podcast episodes, which I'm looking forward to. But those are some of those that can come through in opportunities to build the self-compassion through phrases such as, may I be kind? May I be at ease? May I take this break for pause? Some of those might be some suggestions that you could practice. A second would be soothing touch. So physical touch is so incredibly comforting for many people. And a lot of times there's not an immediate opportunity to snuggle a pet or have a hug from someone. And so opportunities for just providing ourself with some soothing touch, placing a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly. So left hand over heart, right hand over belly, and just noticing your body's like calming system really truly immediately activate as we go into this deep pressure and almost this interoceptive awareness practice of what is my heart rate telling me, what is my breath rate telling me, this curiosity of, oh, am I breathing in my belly? Could I be bringing the breath through my belly? And those can really help with nervous system calming as well. Another opportunity would be to give yourself a gentle hug. So I really love kind of like opposite hand to opposite shoulder, and then kind of doing a pull down of the shoulders. And just maybe even simply, holding your hand on your arm or doing a little bit of self massage and, squeezing your arms, squeezing your hands. And this can really activate the body's calming center, that rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system, which can really connect deeply with your body. You're nourishing your body through this deep pressure touch. And it's a beautiful opportunity to provide that self-love. Another opportunity for working on self-compassion is positive affirmations being built in. So I am affirmation statements. I build them into EFT tapping scripts that I use very frequently throughout my week to help with releasing energy, opening up the meridian channel. And I build in some of those statements with I am. So one that you can kind of consider would be I am worthy of love and compassion. And that really kind of encompasses this self-love and this self-compassion. I'm worthy of these. I am enough. I am doing the best that I can, especially during those really hard times, to help to shift and reframe your mindset, as well as building in this compassionate inner dialogue. The more opportunities we have to practice these moments of pause and reflection and bringing in words that are more positive can really start to have a mental shift and a reframe. It's quite beautiful. Another opportunity is mindful journaling. So if this is just doing a brain dump, I like to call it, of releasing any of the intensities that you might be feeling about your experiences, especially through very challenging times. We can kind of reflect on how we're feeling without judgment is the key here. So we're just dumping. We're releasing. We're not worrying about grammar. We're not worrying about punctuation. An opportunity might be a bullet point journal where you kind of, put your bullet points and, I'm feeling this experience. This is something that was hard. Here's the sensation that I feel in my body. We get to kind of reflect without judgment because we're just doing a brain dump. I need to get these out of my brain. I am releasing. And through this practice, we're really bringing in opportunities to, have compassionate responses to our struggles. This practice also helps to kind of process some of those emotions and offer yourself kindness in the process. And then some of the last things to consider is a guided meditation focused on self-compassion. And so this might be, using an app. Calm has some of these based on self-compassion. Insight Timer has some. I have a few meditations that I've also uploaded to my YouTube channel, and so that might be a consideration as well. And these are opportunities where we get to pause. It might, have some visualizations or some affirmations that are really designed to really step into this self-compassion. We're pausing, we're taking a moment in the present moment to deeply connect to our body and deeply connect to this ability to have the pause, which allows, instead of these looping, intense thoughts of, gosh, everything is so overwhelming, there's so many things happening, I don't know what to do, It allows this, 4-minute, 5-minute pause through guided meditation to help us connect back into maybe what our body is telling us. And through this practice of meditation, I really feel like this has been a pivotal point for me to deeply shift from a nervous, anxious state to more of a calm and regulated state by taking this moment to connect back to the awareness of the present moment without negativity, without, just coming in with neutrality. Here we are. We're in the present moment. Yes, I feel this in my chest. Yes, I feel this in my, in my stomach. Yes, I feel this tightness in my shoulders. Things have been challenging. I'm going to go ahead and practice this moment of pause and release. So guided meditations can be very, very powerful in connecting. And I feel like it's just such a beautiful opportunity to consider self-compassion as this ongoing journey. So as we think about, how can I continue to practice self-compassion, and encouraging you maybe to consider some of these moments of pauses with the practice activities that I just reviewed. Just knowing that it takes, time and practice, but the benefits can really be profound and long-lasting. I've really noticed in my system when I take these moments to specifically do a brain dump and then do some breath work while listening to a meditation. This nurtured self-compassion is so crucial for us to maintain and return to this lovely homeostasis of more of a calm nervous system. We're improving our well-being, but it also helps to enhance the ability to support others. And I really feel that when we are treating ourselves with kindness and a deep understanding, we're able to create a deep and very strong foundation of inner strength. And this inner strength really allows us to face life's challenges with resilience and with grace. I invite deep patience and opportunities to kind of reflect that, every small step towards this self-compassion is a powerful step towards a more balanced and fulfilling life where you're more regulated and more connected to the present moment. And so opportunities to continue with practicing is maybe taking those considerations of the practice strategies. So those self-compassion breaks, when would be maybe a good time to just practice that in? When you are regulated. So practicing some of these opportunities to develop and really cultivate this self-compassion. It can be hard to initially practice these in the heightened moment states. And so as I coach some of my clients through, when are good practice opportunities? Well, maybe in the morning, maybe right before bed, maybe a lunch break when you're in nature and you get to kind of have this beautiful connection in a grounded energy space. So finding times when there is a actual moment of pause without maybe rushing through these practice opportunities. And are there times where you can consider learning these and practicing these and building these into routine in more of a regulated state? So maybe checking in with your heart rate, with your hand on your chest. If you've got something that does actually have a heart rate tracker, that's a really great, like a watch or something. Those are really great, biofeedback. Okay, what is my heart rate baseline? Is this a time where I'm feeling more calm? And then what does it look like for me to feel overwhelmed? What does my heart rate look like? So that's another consideration of kind of how we can track a regulated state, is considering heart rate awareness. So something to consider if you're really into kind of having data. And then you're building in interoceptive awareness, which is beautiful, and having even more opportunities for this connection to yourself, because you're truly listening to yourself in those moments. So practice activities when there's more regulation in your system to allow for this deep understanding of the tools. It's a lot harder to practice these when we are very dysregulated and agitated and, to kind of, as we build things into routine, I just invite setting up more of those opportunities during calmer moments to be able to practice and really have an opportunity to reflect. And then absolutely, these tools are going to be a supportive practice for you when you are feeling dysregulated. So that's just a consideration to practice, is can we practice some of these things like positive affirmations, some of those journaling, listening to a meditation? Could those be practice moments before we flip the lid and have a moment of dysregulation? And knowing how powerful these tools can be for in those states of dysregulation to return back to more of a calm state. But that's just a consideration to allow the processing and the practice to be at more of a calm state, to allow, your brain to really kind of critically think a little bit more. When we're dysregulated, our critical analysis skills really go out the window. So I just invite, from that kind of nervous system perspective, practicing some of these in a nervous system regulated state. So self-compassion breaks, that soothing touch, positive affirmations, mindful journaling, and guided meditations can all be very powerful practice activities to improve your self-compassion. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Sensory Empower, the podcast. I hope some of these strategies may inspire you to cultivate your own self-compassion, especially during really tough times. And I really feel that embracing self-compassion, you can create a more supportive and empowering relationship with yourself. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Please like and subscribe. And for more resources and tools to enhance your well-being, please go ahead and follow me on either YouTube, Instagram, or on Facebook, Sensory Empower. So stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll continue to explore holistic tools for calm and empowerment. Until then, take good care. Thank you for joining me on this sensory adventure through Sensory Empower, the podcast. Remember, empowerment begins with awakening your senses. Subscribe now and embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Until next time, may your senses guide you towards a life filled with peace, joy, and empowerment. Because true empowerment begins with embracing your senses.